let's talk about a team that we know should be good.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia 76ers. Travis, we talked about their offseason in this episode. We talked about it before, how we like their offseason.
I love it.
But how do you feel about their upcoming season, especially now with the news that Paul George may be missing some time?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think the bigger picture is, which is what I was talking about in the opening rant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, boy, it's just so much pressure on the franchise to make sure that these guys, in Joel Embiid and Paul George, are older,
Yes.
championship, you think, pedigree players, are able to get you there come the postseason. And that is about discipline. They have not, as a franchise I'm talking about, they have not had the discipline as of yet to properly put Joel Embiid on the necessary pitch count to make sure that happens. I know they've tried, and it just hasn't worked. Now, some of this is on Joel Embiid, obviously. You get hurt, bro.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And, oh, by the way, no one wants to talk about this in Philly, but I've been watching the calendar turn on this guy's career. I mean, Tay, he's on the other side of 30 now.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
So, I mean, hey, sorry to be the bad guy in the room. I know how the Philly fans are. They're going to want to fight me when they see me in the street. But all I'm saying is, now there are no excuses for this dude anymore, Ante. They had a brilliant offseason as a franchise. Brilliant.
Yep.
They have built around Joel Embiid. Even more, I told you this, as much as I love the Paul George move, which I do, I think he fits. I think at this stage of his career, and you know where I'm going, if he stays healthy, I think defensively he's more valuable to this team than he is offensively.
100%.
But I loved the re-signing of Tyrese Maxey. You retain a Kelly Oubre. I love Caleb Martin being taken away from Miami and coming there. I loved all these moves, Ante.
Yes.
But in the end, it's on Joel Embiid. There are no excuses. You have built around this team. You must, as a franchise, do your best to keep him healthy, but he also has to hold up his end of the bargain and be healthy. If that happens, Ante, I am willing to bet on any damn thing with this team that is good except winning the East. I just don't think they can beat the Celtics, even still, in a 7-game series. I feel the same way about the Knicks. But I would bet win totals over. I'll bet anything. I mean, all the player props, you name it, awards. I'll bet everything 76ers. I do believe in what they did. I do believe in this team. I just think they're going to come up short, even at top health, which is hard as hell for this franchise to get to, clearly. But if they do, I still don't think they beat the Celtics.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the Thunder earlier, and we talked about youth and age being a factor, right?
Yes.
You know what's also a big factor in winning games? Continuity.
Yeah.
And the 76ers, and I've talked about it in great length, have had one of the worst continuity situations coming into this season. They had two dudes who are on the roster, one of which who is not even on the roster anymore. They re-signed, you know, a couple of guys, but basically they have Kyle Lowry, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre, and that's it. Those are the four guys that were on the roster that played minutes for them last year. And other than that, it's a bunch of guys that they're filling in, trying to figure out how to play in this system. They haven't had a preseason where they've played together because Embiid hasn't played a preseason game yet. I don't know if he will. That is what makes me nervous about this team coming into the season. And now Paul George might miss a couple of games here or there. Who knows? We haven't had that news broken to us just yet. But that makes me nervous when you talk about a team that usually starts out the season really hot. And Embiid starts off really good, and everyone's like, okay, he usually, when he won MVP, he won it off like the first, couple of games of the season. You know what I mean? Really, because he puts the world on notice before we get to January.
That's right.
So I'm nervous about this team not getting off to a hot start, being in Philadelphia, having to hear about all of this stuff, and maybe guys step up or maybe they don't. And if they don't, people are going to be really pissed off in Philadelphia about this team. So that's what I'm nervous about is, can they still get off to a good start, even though this team has not played any games together?
No, I know. And you know, you're not going to get a ton of them. Again, even if this goes to plan and everyone's healthy, these guys, particularly Embiid, he's going to be on a pitch count, and he's just not going to be available to you every night. You're not playing back-to-backs. There's just going to be certain guardrails in place. But in the end, you know, look, Paul George is going to play, but I would have the same strategy with Paul George if I were the Sixers. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a healthy heaping of him and Maxey and all those guys, and then they just hope they can drop Joel Embiid in a bucket come playoff time, and we'll see if it works. I'm not buying it.
We'll see if it works. Here's my thing about it is Embiid and this team needs matchups, right? Like they're matchup dependent. That's what's going to decide whether they get bounced in the first round or make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Sure.
It's going to be all based on matchups. So they need to win every game, because I can tell you, everyone else in the league is tired of hearing about, the 76ers, they got Paul George, Tyrese Maxey is emerging, and Embiid is the best center in the world. Everybody has a target on them, right? So they are going to be being hurt, limped. People aren't going to feel bad for them. We saw it with the Celtics in the preseason game that I went to.
Right.
They ain't feel bad for them, or, you know, not bad, because obviously dudes were just sitting out just to sit out.
Right.
But, you know, they went at them. You know what I mean? They popped them by 50. So, and that's what teams are going to do when they get a chance to go into Philadelphia with those fans loud, yelling. They're going to try to beat them by 50, 60, whatever, if guys are hurt. So they're not going to take it easy. And I'm telling you, I've seen some of the deep depths of their bench, and, man, they need help. They need help. So I'm 100% with you there. I want to quickly ask you, what's their biggest addition that no one is talking about?
I think Caleb Martin. I like him. I mean, like, he's limited, meaning, like, he's not some superstar, obviously. But we saw in Miami, he's a more than capable role player.
Yes.
And I actually think his role in Philly is a better fit for him. In Miami, more was dependent on him. And especially in the playoff series against the Celtics, I remember announcers and broadcasters on the Heat side of things saying how much they were dependent on him in that series, because we know Jimmy Butler was hurt and all that. And I'm like, like, that's not his role, bro. Like, if you're dependent on him, you're in trouble. And I mean that as respectful as possible. On the 76ers, that's not going to be the case, because you have other pieces. You have Kelly Oubre, as I mentioned. There's less pressure on him, Caleb, to deliver. And I think because of that, he's going to be more valuable. No one really talked about that. In fact, not only when we did the Heat preview, I think I brought that up of, like, not only did you lose him, but you let him go there?
Right.
Jeez Louise. So I think the 76ers got to win there. I think that's one that no one's talking about.
Yeah, mine really quickly is Reggie Jackson. I think when we talk about people missing and being hurt, he's filled in that role for multiple teams when he was with the Clippers, when he was with Denver last year, when Jamal Murray was out, and when, Westbrook or Harden was out. And those years in Clipperland, dude, he always stepped up. He always gave you big buckets. He always had a lot of playoff moments and stuff like that. I think this guy is going to be important to them because, like you said, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Embiid, these guys, Reggie Jackson's going to be able to fill in for those guys. And, they're going to miss time. They got
Drummond, too, didn't they?
Yeah. I think Drummond's good, too.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. I like them. I just still think they're a cut below the Celtics.